Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning, a very special live episode, surprise live episode of Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Tuesday, April 2nd. I'm your host, Tom Orr. Wednesday, April 2nd, I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Texas game in 150 days, the game against Michigan in 241 days. And if you were planning your next event, well, you should make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at GratefulGriddleOH.com. Joined by Tony Gerdeman, live inside the Wee Hayes Athletic Center. Tony, we just got to talk about the secondary. Cornerbacks coach Tim Walton, safeties coach Matt Guerrieri, and then a decent cross-section of players. No Jermaine Mathews, disappointingly, no Davison Igbinosun, but we got to talk to a bunch of other guys. Caleb Downs, you may have heard of him. Several other players of note. And you got a chance to talk to Devin Sanchez, which I think is probably, Caleb Downs, okay, we've seen Caleb Downs. Everyone's probably excited to hear all about Devin Sanchez, five-star prospect, someone who you're hearing all sorts of positive buzz about, outside of that. What did you get a chance to talk to Devin Sanchez about?
Five-star prospect, five-star interview.
Okay, good.
So,
good.
And not like braggadocious, cocky. I remember the first time I ever talked to Denzel Burke walking away going, wow. Yeah. We were talking about he's the arbiter of truth in Ohio State football, but Devin's very mature and covered a bunch of ground. But talking about what's the easiest part about this, what's the most difficult part about it. He's like, there's nothing easy about it. He may make some of this stuff look easy. He's got the physical makeup, the mental side of it. The hardest part is competing every day. I asked him what was the most important lesson you've learned so far. He's like, everything is a competition. And then he went into when you're a freshman, you're just competing against freshmen. And so he talked about the first time he lost a competition here. And it's like, it stuck with him. And basically, when you're a freshman, you're just competing with freshmen. And then they released them to the rest of the team, and he got his first loss against Davison Igbinosun. And IGB let him know about it. And it's like, I can't ever let this happen again. And it's funny. It's like, you're doing so well against the freshmen, and then they let everybody into the park, and you're like, this is a real world. And so that was one lesson for him, but just a really, really mature and confident in a good way. Confident in that, he said, I have the opportunity to play. That's why I came here. But not, and if it doesn't happen, it's his fault. He's got the makeup for it, but if it doesn't happen, it's not politics or, depth chart. It's it just wasn't ready for it. And he was asked about dealing with expectations from fans, and he's like, I've got Davison Igbinosun and Jermaine Mathews in front of me. At the very least, those two guys are going to keep people on the sideline, off the field. So you can't let any of that get to you. But really, there are times where, me and a couple other reporters are just looking across the way at each other,
yeah, and he's someone who has you've just never heard anything bad about him. He's just, you'll sometimes have, guys who come in and they're very talented, but, they're a little cocky or they're a little, confident. You have to be confident as a corner, especially an outside corner. If you're not confident as outside corner, you get the nickname Toast. That just does not work. You need confidence and you need a short memory at that position. And, Caleb Downs was talking about him a little bit and said, he was asked about, Devin Sanchez, the five-star prospect, and he kind of went Caleb Downs was also a five-star prospect. He goes as soon as you walk in this building, stars are not a thing anymore. You're just a football player, and this is a building where there's a lot of 4- and 5-star prospects. The majority of the team is probably 4- and 5-star players, so it's just you too, congratulations, great, welcome. And
it doesn't get you anywhere.
Right, and you're talking about the freshmen sort of being, with the freshmen, and all of a sudden they get dumped. It's goldfish have been swimming in a little tank, and then all of a sudden it's okay, and now the tank gets dumped in the pond, and it's there's bigger fish in here. How about that? Are they coming to say hi? There's a lot of guys in this building who have always been the biggest, best players on every team they've played. Congratulations, welcome to Ohio State. Jeremiah Smith's right over there.
And he talked about that, the baptism by fire against, Jeremiah Smith and Mylan Graham, but he also said it's he told his parents it's like being in high school again, where as a true freshman, you start at the bottom. And he's starting at the bottom here. And he's like, I know how to work my way up. It's just a process. And he's working out. Just, again, really impressed. We'll have it, we've got it on our YouTube page. After we're done with this, go check it out. Go watch that interview with him because it's impressive. I'll just say that.
Yeah, he's a very, very impressive player. Also an impressive player. Caleb Downs.
Is that right?
Yeah, pretty good interview as well. Very thoughtful. Caleb Downs is someone who was the 5-star prospect, started as a true freshman on a Nick Saban defense at Alabama that made the college football playoff, started as a true sophomore on an Ohio State defense that went to the national championship and won it. And now the third year, he was one of the people who he was kind of looking around. He's like, there's too much national championship stuff hanging up in here. He said they had national championship signs in the weight room. He goes, there's a lot of guys in here who didn't have anything to do with that. That was last year's team. Take it down. And I think they have, and that's really, it's really telling that the guys who's the best guy is also the one who's like, yeah, we're not, he was the 5-star. He has a national championship. He played the most snaps on the national championship team. It's like, great, that was last year. This is not,
what have I done for me lately?
That awards us 0 points this season, so it doesn't matter. And he's very, very much still working on developing himself. He's like, yeah, I'm working on being a dime. Like, how often is he going to be the dime in the Ohio State defense? Probably never. But if they need him to be, he's working on it because he needs to be. He wants to be able to do that and to be versatile. It's isn't it a coincidence how the best players also happen to always coincidentally be the hardest working guys? It's wild how that's the case. He said he's been doing very limited reps this spring, and it's not injury. It's just he had the most snaps on the team last year, so that's opened up a lot of other snaps for younger guys, Jalen McClain and Malik Hartford.
Leroy Roker.
He said he was asked about guys who've been impressive this spring. He mentioned those 3 guys. The first guy he mentioned there was Leroy Roker, which I thought was interesting. Did you get a chance to talk to Roker?
Yeah, talked to him a little bit. And this is his first spring because he was a June enrollee last year. But he did make a mark last year during fall camp with coming up with a bunch of interceptions. I think he only played in 1 or 2 games last year, so he redshirted. But last year was a learning experience because you're playing catch-up the entire time.
Yeah.
And so now things are slowed down for him, especially in spring when it's supposed to be about learning. But he also is playing more, so he'll be growing from this. And it's also all of the safeties are playing the 2 safety spots, so he's no longer just a free safety, which he says suits his game because he can do more than just be a center fielder or whatever. So this is the first time we've talked to him ever, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's right. And he's one of those guys who I don't know how often we talked about him last year on these shows. Not very often. It was just kind of, you came in late. He was not someone like Mylan Graham who we would get asked about because Mylan Graham had the 5-star pedigree. Leroy Roker might have been a 3-star guy. But it's, every once in a while you'll have that guy who's kind of the guy who's sort of at the bottom of the class in the recruiting rankings. And especially if you come into the summer, it's just kind of like, yeah, man, we'll see you next year. Well, now it's next year. And when you start to hear that name from a couple different people, that's when it's like, all right, that's someone to really keep an eye on, especially if it's not, we talk about this all the time. One of the great read the tea leaves things is when you don't ask, how is Leroy Roker doing? When you ask, who's been impressive, and that's the first name that comes out, that's when I kind of go, all right, there's some there. Tim Walton got a chance to talk to him, one of the other corners outside. He said Aaron Scott really processing the game faster. He talked a lot about how guys are processing the game and competitiveness. Those were kind of 2 of the things. And when you hear coaches talk about the same kind of stuff, and you're framing a lot of these different conversations, how is this guy doing? Well, he's processing the game faster. Well, he needs to work on processing the game faster. That's the kind of stuff they're looking for out of these young guys. And it's like, yeah, he's fast. Yeah, he's a good tackler. Yeah, whatever. But it's all that kind of soft factor stuff where it's like, how is that, who's going to play at wide receiver? It's like, well, how are they blocking? It's like, that's not the exciting stuff, but that's the stuff that matters. And, Tim Walton talked about the fact that you're looking for guys who are competing on a daily basis, processing things, and not only doing that, you have to be able to apply things on the field, and you have to be able to sustain it. Yeah. It can't be just like, oh, I had 2 good days, good for me. No, that's not how it works. You
Hello, weekend.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Knocking off a little early this week. No, that's not how it works at all. They have to be able to sort of sustain that. And, he said, this is, when you're looking at young guys like a Devin Sanchez or, some of the other younger guys in that corner room in terms of like when they're looking ahead of them, like, well, how am I going to get past these guys? He said, this is like musical chairs. Like, no one cares that you're young. This is competition. The competition is real. You have to pick it up and go, whether you're a first-year guy or a third-year guy. And then if you're ready and you get in a game, no one cares that you're a freshman. You've got to just be like, it can't be like, well, I'm just a freshman. I'm just if you're in the game, you're in the game, and you've got to be able to, and they have to be able to trust that you are, even if you are a freshman, you're going to be able to do it. Aaron Scott was someone who he also said, he was asked, like, what's his role going to be? He's like, I don't know. It's, you're still halfway through spring ball. He doesn't know what his role is going to be, but he's really grown in terms of intelligence and processing. Devin Sanchez, Tim Walton said that he's doing really well picking stuff up, making plays. He's really pleased with his progression. And he said, with the most difficult thing for young guys like that is the speed of the game and formations and all the moving parts. Miles Lockhart, who is now a second-year player, just lost his black stripe. He said last year it was just like, it was just kind of, you're out there, you're just like, stuff is moving so fast, and it's just, you're just kind of like, well, I'm going to run somewhere. Like, it was going too fast for him. This year, now, it's slowed down a little bit. Now it's like, okay, I understand what I'm supposed to be doing, and then, ta-da, you lose your black stripe.
It doesn't matter how fast the player is, it matters how fast the game is for them, and once it starts slowing down, then, and you're consistent with it, because I think Ryan Day said it yesterday, when you flash, it just means we know it's there. But if it's not there consistently, then it almost does them no good, because you can't be trusted. So it's about eliminating the flashing and being just consistent throughout and being trustworthy.
Yeah, it's the old Urban Meyer line. Potential just means you haven't done it yet. Well, flashing means you've done it maybe a little bit, but you're not doing it consistently enough. So yeah, that's one of those things. Nickel, in terms of nickel position, I asked Miles Lockhart, who was working at nickel this spring. It's all the names we've been talking about. Lorenzo Styles, Bryce West, Miles Lockhart. Tim Walton did say Jermaine Mathews has been in there working at nickel a little bit. He did that some last year as well. And, you've got guys who, boy, Tim Walton's real high on Jermaine Mathews. Like,
I was over there for that.
It's like there's just certain ways that coaches talk about guys, and it's like, oh yeah, it's coming along, really progressing, and it's just, you ask him about Jermaine Mathews, and it's just like, all right, I'm just going to sit back and listen to positive words come this way. Like that. What was the Panasonic TV cover? The speaker where you're sitting on the couch and the noise. It's just like the positivity, just like blowing you back.
Like every coach that we've ever talked to has loved him, and that's going back. We always talk about June camp here with like Jim Knowles and Ryan Day working him out, but yeah, you get Tim Walton started on Jermaine Mathews, and like Jermaine Mathews, we always talk about how he's always smiling, he's always happy. Coaches love that, but he's also really good. So coaches love that just as much, if not more, when you are a positive impact on the team, but also a positive impact on the field. And Knowles would say it last year, like, yeah, we don't need to work him at corner. We're going to get him some work at nickel because we know he can play corner. Like, they know all of these things about him, and there are no concerns. We talked last year. There's no concerns about Cody Simon stepping in for Tommy Eichenberg. There are no concerns about Jermaine Mathews stepping in for Denzel Burke.
No, not at all. Yeah, he said high football IQ, competitor, confident, all the stuff you want there. And yeah, leadership, sense of urgency, growth, development, all that kind of stuff. Davison Igbinosun, he was asked about, said, where does he have to continue to grow his game? Said just he has to improve at the top of the route, which is basically like, okay, the receiver's running to you, and then he breaks. Like, then what do? You just breaking grab. And don't. Yeah, well, you're not supposed to. That's I think where that comes from. That improvement, that sought after improvement. Said he has to improve it off coverage, has done a better job of things, working on transitioning out of breaks and that kind of stuff. But this is his last year in college. So if you want to be getting talked about in the way that Denzel Burke is, and that's the stuff you got to keep working on.
You got to clean it up.
Jordan Hancock.
And reach your potential, because he's got considerable potential. He's long, he's tall, he's physical, he's strong, but sometimes too physical. So if you remain physical but within the bounds, then you shoot up the draft boards.
Yeah, yep. One thing that I did like that Tim Walton said is he was asked, like some of the questions, some of the issues. He was talking about just some of the stuff that guys are working on right now, techniques and that kind of stuff. And someone said, "Is that correctable?" And he said, "Anything in life is correctable if you put the work in." That's sort of a paraphrase, but it's like, that's good. I like that. I think it's a good. You could like cross stitch that and hang it on the wall of the DB room.
Live, life, love. Anything in life is correctable.
Live, laugh, love. Live, laugh, love to correct things. Yes, something about yes.
Beach life.
Yes. Anything else from anyone that you were talking to?
No, I also talked with Aaron Scott a little bit, but then I had to run over to Matt Guerreri. I did ask Matt Guerreri, like, what's the key to say keeping a recruit, keeping a commitment for the next 8 months or whatever.
Hypothetically.
For instance.
For those who may not have listened to yesterday's morning show, Ohio State got a commitment from a 5-star safety out of Louisiana, which is not an area where they've typically gotten guys. And it was someone who has an older brother who's 1 year ahead, who's on the LSU team. So, hanging on to him for the next 8 months is probably, maybe a little bit of a roller coaster.
Well, and he just said it's about relationships and keeping those relationships, building them and then keeping them. I did see Blaine Bradford's father tweet yesterday, like, this thing is over.
I think that tweet may have been deleted. Welcome to recruiting.
One day? That's all.
Welcome
to lasted not even a day.
Yeah, not even a day. Yeah. There was, I forget. I think it might have been an LSU commit, like 10 years ago. Said 110% committed. That said, I'm still going to be taking visits. Or it was just kind of like, yeah, all right, that's kind of how that works. And it's only gotten crazier over the last 10 years or so. Yeah. Anything else that you had to? Okay, Kevin, do we have questions? No. Okay. Well, then. All right. Well, thank you guys all for joining us. We will have. We're back on Thursday with the Ohio State offensive linemen, and then Saturday is the student appreciation practice. So we'll be in here for that. That'll be our first chance to really sort of see the full team in a couple of weeks. So we're looking forward to that. And then the Saturday after that, on the 12th. Is the spring, I'm going to call it the spring game, Tony, because I'm a traditionalist. Spring game, which does sound like it's really going to be more of a spring game and not just a showcase. So we'll have a couple Saturdays in a row of Buckeye football coming up and then a few months off. But that's okay. That's we enjoy a little bonus Buckeye football this time of year. So if you enjoy bonus Buckeye football, make sure you check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. We'll be posting these interviews, kind of the full interviews, all throughout the day. We'll try and space them out for you a little bit. I know Caleb Downs is going up at like 1:15. The Devin Sanchez one that Tony mentioned is already up. So we'll have plenty of that stuff for you all kind of throughout the day and throughout the evening. So make sure you hit that bell and you are subscribed to the channel so that you get notified when all the new stuff comes up, because a lot of interesting stuff that's going to be going up all day and all night. And then, of course, we'll have all of our other shows. Buckeye Weekly, Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning, Big Me Kickoff, Skull Session Recruiting Podcast, all that good stuff. That's all at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.